Hi everyone, welcome to another Workout Wednesday. I am Juliana and today we're diving into how to let our users interactively pick top 3, top 5 or top 10 products, all in one neat visual. So no messy duplication, no clutter, just clean and flexible interactivity powered by numeric range parameters. So here's the scenario. We have a very simple data set. The table has got only 3 columns. One is product, categories, and sales. So the idea is building this column chart for the top performing products where we have all the products on the y-axis and the total sales on the x-axis. Then we're going to have a slicer that will allow us to select if we want to see the top 3, the top 5, or the top 10 highlighted in blue. So if you just click on the slicer, it will automatically highlight the top end that you are selecting. And we also have a subtitle here under our title that will also dynamically change the values based on the selection that we make on the slicer. So if you go back to top 3, our subtitle will show top 3 products and then the total sales of those 3 products together, and then the percentage against the overall sales. And the same when we select top 5 and top 10. We'll also have tooltips showing the product rank, the product category, and as well the total purchase, so how many of each product was purchased. So let's start by creating the field parameter. And to do that, we have to go to the model view. And we have to go to new parameter. And this parameter will be a numeric range. Once we have the parameter, we have just to configure what we need. So let's give the parameter a name. So this will be a top and parameter. And the data type is whole number. It's right. I don't need any decimal. My minimum value will be 3. And the maximum value will be 10. And the increment is going to be 1. My default value will be 3. So once we do that, we can now create the parameter. So let's have a look at this, the new table that was created. And then we can see that there is the column top n parameter that's got the numbers from 3 to 10. Now, if you remember on the example, we are not going to have just the number 3, 5, and 10. We have top 3, top 5, and top 10. So we can do that by creating a calculated column. So I'm just going to Table Tools and create a new column. And my new column will be a parameter name. And it will be, let's just add top. And then we're going to add the values that are on the column top n. There we go. And now we have this new column, which is the one that we're going to use in our slicer. So now that we have created our parameters and we know the fields we're going to use in the slicer, let's create the other measures that we need to build the visual. Let's create the first measure, just summing all the sales. So let's call it total sales. And we just need to use the function sum. And we select fact sales, column sales. So very simple. The next measure we need to create is counting the products. So we're just going to use the function count rows to count how many rows in total we have on that table. So let's create a new measure. And I'm going to call it count products. And it's going to be the count rows of our table. The next measure that we need to create is the product rank. So what is the rank of each one of the products? And we're going to insert a new measure. And for these calculation, we're going to use the function rank x. So let's give it a name. So product rank. So let's start with the function that we need. Oops. Rank x. And then we need to add all. And then the table that and the field that we want to create that we want to rank. So it's going to be based on the products. And then we put based on which measure we want to rank the products based on the measure we created, total sales. So let's add total sales, another space, comma, and then we want descending. And then we can close the bracket. So now we also have the product rank. Now let's create the measure that we're going to use to conditional format the color of our bars on the chart at top and that will make it dynamic based on the selection of our slicer. And then we return if the product rank, which is the measure we created previously, is less or equal to the selected top N, then we're going to return the hex code blue. And for this example, I use this hex code here. So it is 0078D4 for blue, and else we'll return the hex code for gray, which is D3, D3, D3 in example. You can change the hex code if you prefer to use different colors. And then we can close the bracket and the measure is ready. Next will be the measure that we're going to use as the subtitle in our chart so that it changes according to the slicer selection as well. So this is slightly more complicated. Let's have a look how to do it. So let's first insert a new measure. And we're going to call this measure top N summary, or you could call it top N subtitle, whatever you prefer. And we're going to create a variable. And this variable will also be the selected top N. So it is based on the selection of the slicer. So selected top N. We're also going to use the select value. And then we're going to use the parameter, the top N parameter value. Just let's put 3 in case there is no selection, it will default to 3. So the next variable is the top N sales. So let's add variable top N sales. So the top N sales, we're going to have to use calculate. And then it will be the sum of the fact sales. And then we're going to use keep filters. And then we'll use the top N. And we open the bracket. Let's just tidy up here. It will be the top N of the, based on the selection. So selected top N, the first variable. Comma. All. Facts product, because that's what we're doing the calculation based on. And the measure, which is the total sales. Then we also want it to be descending space. And then we need to close the brackets. Here is another one. There we go. Now we close the bracket. So these variable, the sales for the top N products based on the selection of the slicer, using keep filters to preserve the context in the top. And then we're going to create the variable sales percentage, which we're going to use the function divide. And we're going to divide the top N sales, also the variable that we create now called top N sales. And we're going to divide that for the overall sales that we already had calculated, which is total sales. Then, comma 0. And we have the return statement. And this is the final formatted summary string, which got the rank, the sales, and the contribution percentage. Let's just hit OK. And now we are ready to actually build the visual. So let's add these clustered bar chart. Let's just make it bigger. For the y-axis, we need to add the product. And for the x-axis, we add the total sales. Let's now change the title. So if you go to the format pane under general, title, and then we're going to add top performing products. And we also have to add, there is also a divider. So we just change the color, make it lighter. And to add the subtitle, there is the option here, subtitle. So we have to toggle on. And then we're going to click on the option to add conditional formatting. The conditional formatting is based on a field value. All you have to do is find our measure. And the measure that we created for the subtitle is the top and summary. So let's just click on it. And it says top 3 products, because if you remember, we set the default to 3 in case there is no selection done on the slicer. And we don't have any slicer. So let's just put this title a bit bigger as well. So let's put the subtitle 16 and the title to 22. Let's add the slicer. So the slicer is this one, button slicer. And if you remember, we created a calculated column, and that's the fields that we're going to use in the slicer. So that it is parameter name. And as soon as you add that, you can see that it will list all the values that are on that column. And we do not want that. We only want to see top 3, top 5, and top 10. But this is an easy fix. So all we have to do is go on the filters on this visual. And then we only select top 3, top 5, and top 10. But now it's not on the order that I want. I want it to be top 3, and then top 5, and top 10. And again, there is a really quick fix. If we go back to the table view, we're going to sort these columns. So we're going to sort the column parameter name by the top end parameter. So the column that has got numerical values. Then we go back. It's going to be in the order that we want. So now we have to do some formatting. Let's remove the title. I also do not want to have a square. So let's go to buttons. And then on the shape, we want rounded rectangle. And on the rounded corners, we want 20. Now I also want to, whenever I select on the slicer, I want it to highlight with the same blue that's going to be used on the bars. So let's go back to the measure where we have the conditional format for the bars, and let's copy the hex code. And I'm going back to my slicers. And if you look here under these apply settings too, there is the option state. So I'm going to select the selected state, and the field I would copy the hex code that I want. So now I have the right color when I select. Let's now format the font. So under the callout values, we will put the horizontal alignment as central. And then for the state selected, I want to use bold. And I'm going to select black instead of white. So now whenever I select on this slicer, it will pop out a little bit more. So let's just change the size. So our slicer now is ready. We have top 3, top 5, and top 10. But we have not yet formatted the color of our bars. So we're going to have to use the measure that we created. So let's select the chart, go back to bars. And under color, we're going to select the button with conditional formatting as well. The format style will also be field value. And we just have to find the measure bar color hex. So there we go. So whenever now I change the slicer selection, the bars will be highlighted in blue according to the selection. So now let's change the font on our values and the axis. Let's just go to the y-axis, output values 16 and the title 18. I'm going to do the same on the x-axis. So the final part of this tutorial is adding the tooltip. So let's select our chart. And then we have 3 tooltips. We first add the product rank. Then we add the category. And then we add the count of products. And then we can rename it to units sold. So when you hover over now, you're going to see the product, the total sales for that product, the product rank, category, as well as the total units sold. And we are all done. We now build a single chart where our users can select if they want to see highlighted the top 3, the top 5, and the top 10. And we only build one visual and one slicer. No bookmarks needed, so no clutter. I hope you liked this video. If you want to keep practicing, there are other workouts, so have a look. It's goodbye from me now, and see you soon.